My dad always said, play the hand you're dealt if you think it's worthwhile.
To the rest of the world, Will Reeve's dad was just Superman. In 1995, America's Superman was thrown from his horse and broke his neck.
Those people who met my dad remembered him not because he was Superman, but because of how he treated them and for how he moved through the world as a human being. My favorite type of stories are any that involve people overcoming the odds. I enjoy exposing the best of humanity, and I think the best of humanity exists when people have to triumph over adversity. Adversity knocks on everyone's door every day in some way, shape, or form, and we all possess the ability to overcome it.
Will Reeve, welcome to Post Run High.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. I feel like I'm an esteemed company. You've had some big names on this thing. Lots of people like to run and talk about their lives, I guess.
You did a great job. Will and I just ran 1 mile through Brooklyn.
And it was a challenge. We got almost run over by 2 cars.
Yeah.
There were at least 2 people on scooters. There was a dog with not on a leash. Those are the only obstacles. The conversation was great.
Yeah, we definitely hit some obstacles today. I love a chaotic run through New York City. I feel like there is...
Is there any other kind?
There is no other kind.
When's the last time you ran the marathon?
2021.
That's right. I ran it as well. I ran it in 2016 and 2021. I have run the New York City Marathon 2 times on behalf of my family's foundation, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. We have an arm of it called Team Reeve, and we do a lot of events like marathons and stuff like that. And we're in New York. We're in Boston now, London, Marine Corps, Chicago, and we raise millions of dollars just by people signing up and running on behalf of the Reeve Foundation. And the trade-off is we get you a bib in a marathon you've always wanted to run. You have to raise X number of dollars, and people always blow through those goals. And I feel like if I'm going to be asking people to donate or to run, I got to do it from time to time. So yeah, I've done it twice, and I go through phases where I love running. And especially if I'm training for those marathons or half marathons that I've run, I get into it. And then as soon as I'm done with that, I'm like, I'm good on the running. And then I'm off it for a while. So right now I'm kind of off it. I more like to go to the gym or do yoga or whatever.
But I feel like that's a really healthy way to be with running. And I always say that to people that want to, sign up for a big race or get into running. I'm like, you don't have to be 100% all the time with running. Like you can go all in for a little bit, train for a race, complete that goal of yours, and then take a little bit of a break from it. I feel like that's the healthiest way to approach running.
Yeah, running's also a subjective act. You can go as fast or as slow as you want. No one actually cares. My whole thing is like, if you are lucky enough to be able to move your body, do it. That's all.
I love that we touched on your foundation, and I want to get into kind of the reason why behind it. And I would love to start off this podcast by just telling your story.
Sure.
Because guys, it's absolutely incredible. And I'm so excited for everybody to hear it. You grew up in Massachusetts and you were only 2 years old when your larger than life dad suffered a life-changing injury. Mm-hmm. Can you take us back and tell us maybe some of your earliest childhood memories and then just about your childhood in general?
Sure. Well, we'll start at the beginning. It was 12:37 p.m. on June 7th, 1992. I came into this world. So that makes me a Gemini for all you people who love the, what time were you born trend. I don't know anything else about what that means. But anyway, yes, I was born in Massachusetts. My parents had met up there at a theater festival in Williamstown, Mass. And we bounced around a little bit. I ended up living just outside New York City in Westchester County. And I had such a great childhood because I got to run around with my friends and I played sports and I went to a great school and my passions were encouraged and I felt safe and secure. And I was raised with what I think to be really good values. And I had incredible role models in my parents, Christopher and Dana Reeve. And yes, my dad was injured. He was injured on Memorial Day of 1995. So just before my 3rd birthday. And that was a life-changing, in many ways could have been a life-shattering event for all of us. But I think my parents were the ultimate examples of courage and commitment and compassion and resiliency and hope. That was how they lived. That was the model they set for me. Those are the traits that they instilled in me. And we just had a great time. I didn't get to necessarily play catch with my dad in the backyard or go on a run with my dad or anything like that. But we still had a deep, meaningful bond that has sustained me for so long. And the same thing with my mom. And I grew up really active and engaged in sports and in extracurriculars. And I did well enough in school and I had friends. Like I had a great, I have had such a great life. And I'm so grateful for everything that has happened in that life because I've had some bad things happen. My dad's injury, 9 years later, he died. Right after that, my mom ended up dying. I've dealt with some stuff. I've endured some tragedy, but the good far outweighs the bad. I have lived an incredible life full of blessings and great fortune. And I don't take any of that for granted, just as I don't take for granted that I can get out and run a mile with you because I work on behalf of a foundation that advocates for people who can't do that and would give anything to walk across a room, let alone run a mile. So I'm living a good life and I have for my whole life. I've been very fortunate.
It's so nice sitting down with you, and you're so glass half full and you're so optimistic and you're so positive.
It's all I knew. It's all I knew. My parents just, that was their currency, hope and optimism. So that's all I knew. It was like, you just got to be committed to what you believe in. And if you believe, look, I'll say, my dad always said, play the hand you're dealt if you think it's worthwhile. And whatever hand I've been dealt, I think has been worth playing. And optimism is in many ways can be a choice. And I will say, by the way, thank you for saying that I am a, glass half full. Thank you for those compliments, but I can get as negative and as pessimistic and as complainy as anyone. Believe me, like I can have big time mood swings, but on balance, like the arc of my life, yes, I'm optimistic because I know that I'm living by the right values and that I've got a great family and support system, and that goes from work to life to all that stuff. Like why not be optimistic? That's my choice.
If Will's story is hitting home for you, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave us a comment. It really helps us bring on more amazing guests like Will, and we've got plenty of more real, inspiring stories to share. And I would love nothing more than for you guys to be a part of this journey. Let's get back to the video. For people that aren't familiar with your dad's story, let's talk about, the injury that he had, and then maybe a little bit about who he was prior and who he became after, because the after really, I think, cemented his legacy.
Sure. So my dad was an avid adventurer in many ways, and that included being an expert horseback rider to the point that he entered competitions all over the world doing cross-country horseback riding. And in May of 1995, he was in a competition in Virginia. My mom and I were there, not at the competition. We were nearby. And it turned out that at 3 p.m. on May 27th, 1995, my dad fell over the front of his horse and landed on his head on top of the jump that they were going over. And if he had landed an inch or so to the left, he would have gotten up and walked away. If he had landed an inch the other way, he could have been dead instantly. But he landed the way that he did, and he was paralyzed from the neck down. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe on his own. And that was international news because my dad was known as Superman. Back in the late 70s, he was Superman. He was an unknown actor at that point. I think he was 24-ish when he got the role. I think he was 26 when the movie actually came out. Young man thrust into superstardom, and people thought that he was Superman because he was big and strong and handsome and all the things that Superman as the character is. That's how he was in life too. And so that was the tragic irony of it all, that Superman now couldn't move. But the tragic irony of the life away from the camera was that this active dude who loved to ski and run and ride bikes and play pond hockey and wrestle with his kids couldn't do any of that stuff either. So then after he was injured, my dad became the face of spinal cord injury. He became an icon of a movement that really didn't have much movement behind it at the time. Spinal cord injury and disability more broadly were underfunded. There wasn't enough awareness. There wasn't enough support. And my dad and my mom, Dana Reeve, changed all of that. My dad used his platform and his connections and resources, whatever he had, to put pressure on the political community, the scientific community, the medical community, to work to find cures for paralysis, while my mom realized there's no handbook for any of this stuff. What do you do when your husband is suddenly paralyzed and you're now in charge of taking care of him and your child and paying the bills? And oh my God, our house has steps where it needs a ramp, all these things that you would never consider until you are confronted with them in the worst possible moment. So she went ahead and made a literal handbook that it's the guide now. It was the genesis of what is now called the Paralysis Resource Center, where we can help people all around the country, all around the world deal with their new reality in those most crucial moments, the 24 to 48 hours after the injury. We're in every hospital and rehab facility around the country, and it's thanks to my parents. And that's a very long answer, but that was the breadth of their life in a lot of ways. But there's more to them as well.
I feel like it's such a good example of what resilience looks like. We can't touch on Chris Reeve's story, right,
Right.
without mentioning Dana.
Yeah.
So let's talk about resilience and like what resilience means to you.
That's a great question. What does resilience mean to me? I will tell you that resilience is an essential tool in the human toolkit. I think that humans by nature are resilient, and the more you can tap into your own resiliency, the better you will be. You are equipped to handle far more than you think, and I don't wish anyone to be in a situation where their resiliency necessarily has to be tested, but we know part of the deal of being alive on this earth is that you're going to face hard times, and it's how you respond to those hard times that defines who you are and how you'll be remembered. And my parents are remembered as heroes because of their resiliency. And I'm not talking about the millions of people who think of my parents as heroes, though they do. They're my heroes because of how they responded to all of the challenges that life presented them. They set such a model for me to live my life. And I'm not saying that I'm some resilient hero who always has the correct response to adversity. I whine, I complain, I avoid, I deflect, I bargain, I do all the stuff that isn't resilient and is in fact more human, like avoiding the pain. But on balance, I think that resilience means facing these challenges that you inevitably and invariably are presented with and giving it everything you have.
So impressive, and you're incredibly humble because you are so resilient. And I can't even imagine what you went through losing not only one of your parents but both of your parents so close to one another. I mean, it's horrible. You've obviously gone on, you've lived this incredible career, you're creating an incredible legacy for yourself,
Oh, thank you.
and you of course have these incredible values that you've learned from your parents and you embody them, and everybody listening to this interview can see that. When you went through this at such a young age, what kept you so motivated?
I was raised in a household where doing well in school was a non-negotiable. So I don't actually know if I was that motivated generally. I don't know if I was the hardest worker. That was a thing you had to do. You had to do well in school. You had to do whatever you did, you had to do well.
Right.
And failure was allowed, and experimentation was encouraged in my household growing up. Like there was no, I never felt in the short time I had with my parents or after any undue expectations externally from anyone saying you have to be this, that, or the other. But there were standards that had to be met academically, standards that had to be met in the way of how you treat other people, how you treat yourself. And anytime that I've not met those standards, I am my own harshest critic, but I also know that I have this amazing group of people in my life, and I always have who will hold me to account or not let me get off the tracks and keep moving forward. And I also know that I'm trying my best to honor my parents' legacy by being the person that they would want me to be. And I don't judge my daily life by the rubric of what I think my parents would think of one decision or the other. But on balance, I do try to uphold the values that I know they instilled in me. And I guess that's my motivation, but I don't think of it, it's not a conscious motivation. It's just sort of the setting that I've been tuned to, I guess.
When your parents passed away, who became the parental figure for you?
I was adopted by a very close family friend of ours. Like my life stayed about as normal as it could have given the circumstances. And I'm close with, my extended family and my half brother and sister, Matthew and Alexandra, who there's no half. Like we share a dad and not a mom, but we're as tight as anyone could ever be. I've had them forever, and their families have grown. And so my family has grown. I've now got this amazing fiance of mine, Amanda, and her family, who are just so wonderful. So I've had this growing, but still very tight circle of support throughout my life. And that's been, if anything's made all the difference, it's been the people I've been around. And that extends to at work, the people who have supported me, believed in me, encouraged me, taught me, my social circle, my family. Like I try my best to be around people who know me for me and motivate me, because I'm actually not that self-motivated.
Okay.
Like that's why I sign up for
Wait,
marathons.
let's talk about that.
I'm not.
Okay, I'm shocked by that.
I am driven and I am ambitious and I am purposeful and I have a plan, long term and short term. Like I'm committed to the cause, whatever it is. But I'm lazy. So that's why I need external motivators, or I need to set goals to reach, which might sound like it is in itself self-motivated, but to me it's like I signed up for the first marathon that I ran in 2016 because I was feeling like I wasn't accomplishing anything. I felt like I wasn't doing anything. I was in my early to mid 20s. I was like, I need to do something. So I'll sign up for a marathon. Like at least there's that. And that will get me running because I was not a runner. So I was like, at least that'll get me running. And then I ended up loving it. And then I came back and was like, I want to do it again, but I want to raise double the money that I raised for the Reeve Foundation the first time, the second time. And that was my external motivator to like really keep going, like run a better time. I go to the gym or get exercise every day because I know that I have to for my mental and physical health, not because, which I don't know.
Okay, but
maybe
you're
it sounds like-
describing all of
does
the
that sound
things.
self-motivated?
Yes, it does.
But I want to do it for other people. Like I want to.
Okay, listen, I get it. Like, okay, so I'm curious here. This is kind of a different direction too. All right, so I feel like, we talked about the importance of like having, people in your life that you love, trust, support you, lift you up.
I don't want to let them down.
You don't want to let them down. For me, it's so important to have a supportive partner in my life. And my fiance is literally my rock through every single thing that I go through. Congratulations on getting engaged.
Thank you.
What would you say are the qualities about Amanda that like really complement you and help you stay self-motivated,
Oh gosh. Oh, she's just so great. She's so awesome. She is so kind and compassionate. She is an amazing friend above all else. She sees everybody for who they are, but she also sees their potential, and she believes in people and she helps people get to where she knows they can be. And I know that certainly. She makes me want to be better in some way for her at all times. Not that she's holding me to some standard, not that she's dictating anything, but I love her so much. I admire her so much that I want to do everything in my power for her to make our life together better, to make her life easier and better, to hopefully one day grow a beautiful family that has the same values that we both have, because we both come from really strong family units. And that's really, family is so central to each of us. She's so compassionate and really fun, just like a great hang. And if you put all of those things together in one package, it sounds like it would be overstuffed, but no, it all exists in Amanda. And I think I like right now while we're having this conversation, she's out of town working, and I'm very sad about that. I was like, I want to leave here and go home and talk about how I did on this podcast. And because she watches, before I knew I was coming on here, but I hadn't yet told Amanda. And she shows me like, you should do this. Like it showed up on whether it was her TikTok or her Instagram or something. She's like, you should do this like running show. I'm like, I actually just got asked to do it. So she's a fan.
Love.
I don't know. Not enough time in the day to talk about all the ways that Amanda motivates me to be a better version of myself, because I want to be great for her and for our family one day.
I love that. Yeah. And you are self-motivated. So that was like a long circle, but you are self-motivated.
I appreciate that. But it's really like, I don't want to let people down. I'm the ultimate people pleaser. So it's like, that's kind of why I don't think of it as self-motivation. Because I'm like, I know a lot of people believe in me. I got to make sure their bets pay off. That's kind of the difference in my mind.
I congratulated you on this before we started, but I watched your documentary last night, Finding My Father. And guys, if you haven't seen it after this interview, you're going to have to go and watch it. It is so beautifully done. It is so good. What made you want to finally share your story now? Because I know you said that this is something that you've wanted to do for a while. So why now?
So I had, to back up, right before my dad was injured in 1995, he had been spending parts of a full year following the migration of the Pacific gray whale from the far reaches of Alaska up in the Arctic Circle down to Baja, Mexico. It's the longest migration of any mammal. My dad flew his own plane to follow them. He scuba dived with them. He met locals and natives in both Alaska and in Mexico, and it all became this hour-long documentary that I watched on repeat because it was the last thing my dad ever filmed before his accident. And I didn't have much experience with my dad not in a wheelchair. So it was a portal for me into a version of him that I didn't get enough time with, and a version I wanted to get to know better. So then as I grew up and I developed my own interests and passions and skills and talents, I realized that I needed to go to those places that he went and see what he saw and hopefully find the people that he found and turn it into a product, in this case, a documentary that might be able to give people a portal into their own relationships with their father or mother or someone else they love but didn't know enough or want to know more about. So that was almost a lifelong pursuit. But then I got really serious about it about 3 years ago. I realized, all right, I think I understand how to do this, and I think I know who to talk to, and if not, they'll help me, and blah. And we finally figured it all out, and it started with a cold email to the son of the man who took my dad around in Mexico. I reached out to him. He responded and said he was running the family business now and I should come down. So I did that, brought a camera crew down to this remote outpost in a lagoon in Mexico, hang out with Pancho Mayoral, son of Pachico. So Pachico took my dad around. Pancho took me around. Did the same thing up in Alaska with the son of the guy who took my dad around Alaska. And it was an exploration of the connectivity between generations, using the whales and the connectivity between their generations that have been going on for millennia. They do the same migratory pattern every year. And it was so enriching for me as a son to understand that I had this profound connection to my dad, separated by 30 years in space and time, but connected by the fact that we were both there 30 years apart, seeing the same things, finding versions of the same people, next generations of the same people, and learning that in each of these remote places, those people who met my dad remembered him not because he was Superman, but because of how he treated them and for how he moved through the world as a human being, the values that he brought with him, the spirit that he carried in any interaction. And that's what made me proud as a son, is like, oh, my dad was just like a great person. And I wanted to share that with everyone. And so I did. And we put it on TV. And it was cool. It was also something I wanted to accomplish because, not to brag, but I was sort of the driving force behind this whole thing. I came up with the idea. I did a lot of the writing. I'm in every frame of the thing. And I had a dream team of people helping me, including Diane Sawyer, the legend, Robin Roberts, the legend, as executive producers and guides and mentors to me, as they have been for a really long time. Having their names associated with this helped me get into rooms and open doors that I might not otherwise be able to. And it gave it some legitimacy, I think, beyond just, oh, here's Will. Like, this is a nice idea, cute idea, but see how it goes. Like when you get some of the names involved that we had, it added heft to it. And I was so grateful to the support that ABC and Disney showed to it to promote it and share my story. I'm forever grateful. And I really wanted to do this because it's my thing that I made. And it was a part of my story and my dad's story that didn't get told in the theatrical documentary that came out about my dad that is amazing as well and has won a bunch of awards and all these things. It's been 20 years now since my dad died.
It's crazy.
So this is a good time for people to remember who he
Remember
was.
him when you were younger and watching clips from your dad's journey. Was there one that when you went back to recreate it for the documentary that you just put out, was there one experience that he had that was always your favorite, that you always hyper fixated on, that you really wanted to do?
Yes. There was a list of them, but the number one at the top by a mile was I needed to touch a gray whale. There's this lagoon in Mexico, San Ignacio Lagoon, is one of the only places on earth where these wild animals, gray whales, 40 feet long, weighing many, many thousands of pounds, will come up to your tiny little boat and invite you to touch them. It's not a petting zoo. This isn't SeaWorld. This is a wild lagoon. But these whales, thanks to that man Pachico who took my dad around, turns out that they're really friendly and social and invite human interaction because they trust humans. And my dad got to touch a whale in this documentary that he made in 1995. And I have wanted to go do that since the moment I saw that as a little kid. I said, if I do nothing else, I need to go touch a whale because my dad did. And how cool would that be? Whales have always been my favorite animal because my dad loved the whales and I wanted to be like my dad. So I loved whales.
Did filming the doc change the way you saw your dad in any way?
Going in, I didn't know if it would or not. I spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about my parents. It's a way to keep them present with me and hopefully in the minds of other people, because I think what my parents represented and who they were is worth carrying with us in the present day. We could use more people like my parents in today's world. So I talk about them, I think about them all the time. And as a result, I feel like I know who they were, right? I think I knew pretty much everything. And I went into this project wondering, is there going to be some revelation? And what ultimately ended up happening was a crystallization, like the ultimate clarification or confirmation of how my dad was as a person, what his passions were, what his values were, what his sense of humor was like, what his sense of adventure was like. All these things that I knew and I had been told and I'd sort of seen on film, but never really got to experience. But getting to go to these places, there's some sort of special energy there. There were moments where I would be sitting out on this lagoon waiting for a whale to show up and maybe let us touch it, or like I'd just be sitting out there staring off into the distance, and I would realize like I know that I am in the exact physical spot within this lagoon where my dad was, because I recognize it. And here I am, and I am filled with such enthusiasm and childish wonder and gratitude. And I know he was too. And I don't mean to get too woo woo on you here, because it wasn't.
No, let's get woo woo. I feel like you were literally seeing the world through his eyes.
There you go. See, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, but I'm giving you all these like long-winded answers. That's it. I was seeing the world through his eyes, and that made me feel closer to him.
Of course it did.
That's what I was looking for. Gosh, where were you on like the original press tour for this? I wasn't like feeling his spirit. Maybe I was. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm
not
sure
to get
you
too-
were.
I was feeling an immense and profound connection to him and my mom, because I was in these places that I know they would have wanted me to be in. It was like a life checkpoint, because not only did I get myself to these gorgeous, like naturally beautiful places in the world that deserve to be seen and then shown to the world. That was an accomplishment, right? Not only did I engage with the people who live and die there and usually don't really leave, and get to learn more about them and share their stories with the world. That's an accomplishment. That's worthy of pride. And not only did I have a really good time, I was like, was I happy doing it, which they would have wanted, but I was doing it on my terms, on my own path. I was there because I work for ABC News and I had done all the necessary work to get people to believe in me enough to go to do this thing that they also thought was a good idea. And my parents would have been really proud of the initiative that I had taken to go make this thing. Like they were seeing the whole confluence of all my dreams and passions and skills and talents coming together. And I felt really proud about that. It felt like an accomplishment just to go there, like I'm doing a thing that they would love. And that was cool.
It is cool. And you did it in your own way. And I think what is so amazing about it is exactly what you said. I love the word storytelling. I mean, you've become a journalist, right? I think it's so fun that you got to do a passion project that means so much to you and is so you. And it's just really cool for people to look beneath the covers a little bit and see like what's going on in like Will's mind. And, they see you all the time on TV, but it's cool to feel that personal connection with you.
There's usually like a few things going on in my mind at once.
As we start talking about your career that you've built for yourself, let's dive into journalism. How did you become interested in storytelling?
I got pieces of it along the way. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional athlete. And then I got to middle school and realized that that was not possible because I wasn't good enough at the sports I wanted to go pro in. So then I decided I wanted to work at ESPN because that's where you go to talk about sports, right? So that was the next best thing. And I was always good at writing. I love to talk. I like to tell stories. I like people. I like travel. And turns out that journalism is a lot more than just that. But those were the basic building blocks that got me interested in wanting to do it. And then I interned at ABC News in college and fell deeply in love with it. And I knew immediately that I had to work at ABC and at GMA specifically. That was the goal always. Like, I'm going to be on Good Morning America. That's what I really wanted to do. And I was sort of secretly, privately, strategically orienting all of my life around that. And so to get to now do that every day with Robin and Michael and George and everybody else is such a privilege. It's so fun. It's really challenging, but in a great way. And I love it. And I still have so much to prove and so much to learn and so much left to do. But where I'm at right now, I'm incredibly grateful. I feel this interesting balance of gratitude and fulfillment that isn't complacency. Like I haven't made it, but I've achieved some goals, which then makes it time to set new goals. And on Post Run High Part 2 some other time we can discuss.
At the end of this, we're gonna touch quickly on like new goals and kind of what you have that you're looking forward to that we can shout out and just get people excited for.
Okay.
But on the topic of what you do for a living, you're so young. It is so cool to see how much you've accomplished. I mean, it's incredible
That's
to
very
work
kind
for.
of you to say.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing to do, we talked about this before, but my favorite thing to do is to interview journalists and interview people that work for networks and are in the industry because I want to be a journalist.
You are being a journalist right now.
Thank you. How am I doing?
You're doing great.
Guys.
You're doing awesome. And you don't need my approval for that. You're crushing it.
Well, I want to ask you, what are your favorite stories to report on? And maybe why?
My favorite type of stories are any that involve people overcoming the odds. That can take so many forms. That can be people rebuilding after a natural disaster. That could be a sports story where, the team comes back and wins the big game when no one thought they could. That could be a town rallying around one of their own who is going through a hard time. I love those stories because I enjoy exposing the best of humanity. And I think the best of humanity exists when people have to triumph over adversity. And adversity doesn't necessarily have to be obvious. It doesn't have to be a natural disaster. It can be. It doesn't have to be a disease or a spinal cord injury. It can be. It doesn't have to be a huge deficit in the fourth quarter of the big game that you overcome, but it can be. Adversity knocks on everyone's door every day in some way, shape, or form, and we all possess the ability to overcome it. So if I can be there to shine a light on everyday people who are triumphing over some sort of long odds in whatever form that takes, that makes me feel like I've contributed to the human experience, which sounds maybe super pretentious because
No, it doesn't. You're
I just,
so humble.
I don't know. Well, I
You
don't
second
know.
guess. I feel like you second guess things that you
I
say, but you are so
do.
humble.
My therapist tells me that I qualify too many things.
It makes so much sense that those are your favorite stories to tell because you have faced so much adversity in your life and you've figured out ways to overcome it and, still thrive and, not like let really traumatic scenarios bring you down.
Well,
so like you are the perfect person to be having those conversations.
Thanks.
And I love that. I love that you use the word humanity. My favorite thing to do with interviews is to show the humanity in people, whoever you are, from whatever walk of life, whatever you believe in. There's humanity in everybody. And I think everybody has the right to share their story. I love asking reporters this and journalists this because it's different for everybody. What does preparation look like for you when you're getting ready, maybe just to go on Good Morning America or to cover a big story?
Preparation for me starts the night before. Whatever I'm working on, whether I'm out in the field, meaning on assignment, or if I'm home and I'm going to be in the studio the next morning, I'm making sure that everything that I have written, that I then track into my little microphone and either in a coat closet or under a duvet cover, it depends. Make sure that's all as buttoned up as it can be. Everything is factual and informative and hopefully entertaining on top of it if the story allows for entertainment. I'm making sure that I've read everything about the subject or watched everything or whatever. If I'm covering a sports story, I try to watch the games if I'm not at the game itself. And I try to get sleep. It doesn't work. I really need to step up my sleep stack, as they call it. I got to get better about sleeping. I put together my little green juice concoction with some amino acids in there and some creatine and all that. Shake that up, put it in the fridge. I make either a smoothie or an overnight oats or something for breakfast that I put in Tupperware, put that in the fridge. I pre-make the coffee for Amanda because she wakes up later than I do. So I set the timer on the coffee machine. I get in bed. I try to read. I'll read anything. I'll read fiction, nonfiction, doesn't matter. Spend time with Amanda, spend time with our dog Stella. That's my preparation. Morning of, wake up, clothes are already laid out, get dressed in the dark. That's why the clothes are already laid out, so I don't have mismatched shoes.
Yeah, cannot wake up at Amanda. You guys are up so early for your job.
Yes, I get up very early, not as early as other people, but I do get up pretty early, like in the 5s, like 5:30. And then I go to work and I try to be the best I've ever been. And sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. And I'm okay with either. And then I just keep it moving.
Yeah, keep it moving. That's what you got to do.
Do other people give better answers, like really specific answers?
No, your
what
answers
are you looking for?
Your answers are incredible.
No, but thank you. But on that one, does someone else, who has a...
No, people say the same thing. I think that the biggest commonality that I've heard through everybody, through Lindsay Davis, through Dana Perino, through you, is preparation is key in whatever you're doing. That can look like what you were just describing as your routine the night before, the routine the morning of. Those are all part of your preparation, right? Because it gets you in the right headspace. It gets you ready to go for the day.
It makes you less nervous.
Makes you less nervous.
Because there's less unknown.
Yeah. There's confidence that comes from a routine. And 100%. There's nothing better than confidence when it comes to preparation.
I'm such a creature of habit and routine, and I don't have a job that really allows for it because I can get a call at any moment saying, you're on a plane to here, or this is your new story, or whatever. But that's what I signed up for. So,
what is the biggest lesson you've learned in your career to date?
Oh boy. The biggest lesson I've learned, I think this is the umbrella lesson, and then there are smaller lessons that we don't have to get into. But the biggest lesson that I've learned is show up. And that can mean whatever you want it to mean. I think it means show up, be there. Whether it's show up at the story, show up at the office and meet new people, ask them to be your mentors, you develop relationships and a network within your own organization or within your own industry. Show up for people emotionally and spiritually, as a friend, as a colleague. And in my business, in the news business, showing up is a huge part of getting ahead. Just being there on time, being reliable. If you can be physically where you need to be and do a good job when you are there, whether that's on camera or off, you're going to be miles ahead, because some people don't show up either physically or in the more metaphysical sense. So I would say show up. And then also be kind. Kindness costs nothing. And the ROI on kindness is exponential.
Do whatever you need to do the morning of to get yourself in the right headspace to make sure that everybody you meet, you're bringing the right energy to.
Yeah, you want to be an energy. There's a thermostat and a thermometer. One takes the temperature, one sets the temperature. The thermostat sets the temperature, right?
I don't know.
Yes. Thermometer is what you like put when you're sick.
Yes.
So thermostat is what you do on the wall. So
Yes,
that sets
yes,
the temperature. You want to be a thermostat. You want to be setting the temperature, setting the energy. You want to be an energy fountain, not a drain. You probably heard all these.
Sometimes I can be both, but I do
Everyone can too.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. You don't have to be, nobody is always just one thing. Like you've been very kind to say that I'm humble.
You are.
But I'm not always. Like I have plenty of ego, but I reserve that for moments where I think that's appropriate, or
Right.
even when it's not appropriate, it's not on camera. Whether it's ego or you said that I'm always positive, which I try to be, but there are times that I'm not because I'm a human being. Like I live a full human experience. And that's, I think, why I have found some level of success in my job, is because I understand that every single person that you've ever encountered is just doing the best they can to figure it out at any given moment. No one's better than anybody else. No one really knows what they're doing. If you just approach something with the right attitude, that's like more than half of the battle.
You know what I want to ask you?
You ask whatever you want.
So I am 2 years into being on camera a lot. I'm about a year into doing this podcast, which is the first time I've been on camera in a long form setting. I love it. I'm having so much fun with it. You work in the industry. You've got so many incredible mentors around you, that have done this for years. I'm sure have given you great advice. What is a tip for me that you have about being on camera to make sure you're always showing up as your best self? Like, are there little tips that you've learned along the way as a journalist? And this is good advice for people that want to get into broadcast journalism.
Yeah, I would. So I have some tips that you would hear at like a commencement address, or I have some actual practical tips. I'll give you both. The practical tips: take a deep breath or two before you're about to be on camera in whatever form. Just reset the nervous system. Whatever you do to sort of center yourself. For me, it's just some deep breaths, just to get the nerves out, whatever that looks like for you, do that. If I'm really nervous, I will try to make conversation with people around me so I forget that I'm like about to be on camera, because I still do get the butterflies that like, I take my job really seriously. I take my performance really seriously. I take my product, like whatever I'm delivering, really seriously. So I want to do a good job, but sometimes that means that I'm like gripping on too tightly to the thing and I need to loosen up. So that means that I'll just like chat with whoever off camera to get the nervous energy out. That helps. Breathing, that, being prepared generally are the good tips. And the sort of graduation commencement address advice version of that is be yourself, which I'm sure you've heard a million times. I've heard it a million times. For the longest time, I didn't know what that meant, because like, all right, yeah, like I'll be myself, like sure. But as I've been doing what I do longer and longer, the more I realize we're all unique. We all bring our unique experiences and histories to whatever we're doing. But as I've actually been more myself, the more confidence I get. I'm like, oh, I know my subject matter, and I know that I'm decent enough at the blocking and tackling and X's and O's of like being on TV in terms of which camera to look at and how to read a teleprompter or write a script. I can just relax and be me like I'd be with my buddies or with my fiance whenever that situation calls for it. And that is going to cut through to the audience, to the viewer, to the listener, whatever. The authenticity that you bring, and I mean you specifically, Kate, the authenticity that you bring to what you do is what is going to set you apart from anyone else who might try to imitate what you do.
Right.
And don't lose that. Just be you. And you already are. So you don't need, you might think you need my advice, but you don't. But that is my advice anyway.
It's such good advice. And I'm so happy that I have it on camera to like always look back to. Seriously, this entire interview is like mentorship for me.
That's very kind. Well, hey, as you probably already know, and if you don't, life is just a series of networks that you are sort of responsible for building and finding mentors in whatever you do. It doesn't have to be anything that's ever televised or broadcast to the world in any form. Finding people who you look up to and trust and know will help you get to be the best version of yourself in whatever your pursuit is essential to living, I think, a happy life, and certainly essential to progressing in one's career.
We've talked about so much. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and we could go in so many different directions. And I still have so many questions for you, but I want to know what is next for you? What do you have going on that you're really excited about? What can we be on the lookout for? Tell us.
Let's be on the lookout for the GMA 5K. This is a running podcast, running adjacent podcast. I've finally stopped sweating. The GMA 5K, May 14th, nationwide virtual race. All abilities welcome. You follow GMA, Good Morning America, on Strava. You get involved. We're going to be broadcasting from around the country, including in New York at Governor's Island. I'll be there. Robin Roberts is running. Ginger Z, our chief meteorologist, is running and doing the weather at the same time, which I can't wait to see how that turns out. I think I'll be there running. I'll be just handing out water. I'll be there with enthusiasm and support, but we're doing it in conjunction with some important charities doing great work. Achilles International, helping disabled people. For All Mothers, which is helping moms stay active and get active, despite all the barriers to that in a lot of mothers' lives. It's just going to be a good time. There's going to be a band there. I don't know what else we have in store. It's going to be a 5K, but morning TV extravaganzified. So it's going to be great.
I am so excited.
Yeah.
Guys, May 14th, be on the lookout for more updates about the GMA 5K.
You got to come out.
I am going to be there.
All right,
hopefully.
good. Yes.
Fingers crossed. I am going to try to be there 100%.
If
also,
I have to be there that early, you should.
Yes, I think I should. And I also feel like I need to get the weather woman on camera.
Yeah, you got to get Ginger on there.
Ginger doing the weather, that'd be iconic.
But like, I've looked at the weather while I've been running, but it's just me pulling up the weather app on my phone. I feel like she's going to be doing something a little more involved.
I'm really curious to see what she's doing. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm just like, we've only just met, but I've watched your stuff from afar and honored to be in the company that I'm in with the folks that you've had on. And I am very impressed by what you're building, and just keep building it. Keep running fast.
Thank you so much.
But not too fast, because then no one can talk.